Post-lunch, and we're starting back up. It's 1 o'clock on October 10th. We are here at Oxbow High School, the school district redistricting task force. And we're heading into our afternoon portion of the meeting, not to be confused with the later public hearing portion of the day, but this is our afternoon session, so welcome back. We are going to jump right back into the conversation that we were having before lunch regarding the boards of cooperative education services, also known as BOCES. We had a great presentation by Jen Botzajorns. Thanks, Jen. It was fast and furious and also enlightening and interesting, so thank you. I'm going to hand over the mic to Rebecca and Jen for the second portion.
All right, so we have about half an hour, and this is a proposal. We don't know if this will be one of the things that we pursue. And also, we have learned that we do better work when we get good input from everybody at the table. So we're actually going to, instead of having us talk more at you, we were going to encourage everyone to find the big packet. And if you're at home watching from the comfort of wherever you are, there's a big packet, which is the longer template for the 5 regional education service areas, or BOCES. And what we're going to ask everybody to do is work with the person next to you for maybe 10 minutes. And I want you to answer 2 questions. One is, what did you notice? Like, what's sticking out to you? And what questions do you have? And then we're going to have a discussion around those. The reason we want to hear you talk is that's going to help us think about what wasn't clear, what doesn't work, what we need to address, what we need to add, what needs to be changed. And because we're going to have to go back and have a second hit at this document. So if we are all done earlier than 10 minutes, great, but it's pretty big, so I don't expect that. But please, if you could take that time and spend that, and then we'll reconvene about 10 minutes to have a bigger discussion about those 2 questions. And if you're at home and you have feedback after reading this document, you should feel free to send it either to Jen Botzajorns or to myself, Rebecca Holcomb, or send it to the task force email, and we'll get it one way or another. And that's on the website for the redistricting task force. The email is right on the website. If you have specific feedback about the 5 regional education service areas or boards of cooperative education services, please send it in, and we will read all of it before we make revisions to this document. Does everyone know what we're going to do?
Yes.
All right.
Let's go. 10 minutes for discussion.
And Jen and I are probably going to listen to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I guess I'm working with you. Is that okay? Have you noticed
Yeah,
what
that's
questions do you have?
Well, I think,
You got it. You got it.
I was just saying that.
I don't remember what Ben stands for.
Yes, that's what
Are we ready to come back Are we ready?
Sure. It did.
So, I think so. Right now, what would be helpful is for us to hear from you and not us to talk. So for the next 10 minutes, we're going to ask you to have a conversation about what you noticed and what questions you have. And the reason is we're trying to write down what are the things that come up for people as they begin to digest this, because those are the things that we're going to need to think about and respond to as we make our revisions. So we want to respond to what you're saying, not what we're saying. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So
does.
I'm going to let our chairs facilitate the next 10 minutes, and then Jen and I will join in.
All right. I think you just started off the facilitation, so well done. Who would like to start the discussion or the question asking session of the BOCES model?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Jay.
So Dave and I were talking about just the versatility and utility of the plan. It almost seems like something that could be done absent any big changes in governance. So that was one thing. Did you want all the things that stood out, or just one?
No. I think probably a lot of us had a similar. We phrased ours in the form of a question, which was like, well, what structures are under this map? Mm-hmm. But it seems like that you were sort of musing on the same thought, same idea. Yeah, Beth.
Yeah, and we discussed that too.
with the structures underneath that, what the process would be for those strategic mergers. Would there be an appeals process, for a community to say, oh, you think we'd be better in this one than this one? Is there a process for that under the strategic mergers? What if there were any orphan districts that didn't seem to really fit? What would be the process for getting them into a governance unit? I'm just say governance unit, because we don't know if BSU, SD, some other name.
Thanks.
Yeah, so Kim and I had two things. What these two guys, what we shared, that was the first question I think we asked each other. And then the second was we just noticed Chittenden County was twice as, well, a third of it. But we thought maybe about splitting that in half. Yeah. But, so those were our two biggies. And one thing we both loved is on page 21, the governance and representation, how there was a voice from everybody. We loved that part, so.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you. Scott?
Yeah, so a question I have, just, so maybe I missed it. In this, are you thinking that these would be SDs or SUs, or are you agnostic at this point, or?
Well, that was
sort of what we
that was
were-
the first conversation that came up, is
Oh,
what is
okay.
the
I missed
structure
that.
underneath?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I don't know if there's an answer.
okay, so we're still noodling on that. Okay.
We were talking about how are the BOCES connected or not connected to the Agency of Education? So many costs have been pushed to districts, and this could pull the costs back into the general fund the way they used to be. And so the question is how are the BOCES connected to the agency, and how did the BOCES respond regionally at the same time? So what is their tension there? Maybe I don't understand the system. And if there is, how does it get resolved?
What do you mean by that second question?
So if the BOCES can be different things in different regions, right? So responding regionally, then how does that work? Who decides I'm not as familiar with BOCES as I'd like to be, but I see the application. And so I just don't understand that, right?
Yeah, how does it solve?
Are there certain parts that are in law that every single BOCES does these things, whatever it is? Or is it all, here's the menu of options and the members choose how it's going to work, what it's going to.
How does it solve for equity?
Yeah.
Statewide coordination.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. What part's statewide, what part's local? I don't want to be in the same place where we are now, where local needs aren't being met, but people think they are because they don't understand what's happening across the state.
As I think about that question, Edie, I think, could a district or SU, whatever the governance structure is beneath it, not choose a menu item that they really need to be getting service for? And so maybe that's just an extension of what you were suggesting, that if that is controlled locally, you could end up with very similar problems.
Wendy?
So the structure of the BOCES right now are contemplated. They're not yet governmental structures, and I think they should be governmental structures. So that they should be accountable. And I know this isn't a question, but I do think if they're a private nonprofit, that would not be helpful.
No, well, I want to hear the questions. Because
Okay, the
if we hear the questions, we
Will-
know what
will
we need
they
to
be-
make more explicit.
will they
There are
be-
answers to some of these, but yes.
Will they be a governmental type unit
Yeah.
Or private.
or a private?
The one we heard from last week was a private nonprofit.
I heard that that's what it was. That's what it was or is now. But it's
Yeah.
the expectation is that it morphs into something more governmental. Would they overlap each other? I think the answer is no. But there should just be one BOCE per area. And then could they include legal services to districts? I think that would be helpful.
Dave, did you have your hand
Yes. Looking at the map, Jay and I have each worked as superintendents in regions where there's a lot of collaboration around academics, discussion but not sharing of special ed services. But it's a collaborative group that's already in place. The framework is there. So we were just sort of musing about that, the VSA map, as something that might be logical. That's not a question, Rebecca, but we could turn it around. Is it logical to assume that the VSA map is the right one for BOCES? What else do we have?
We had that ready-made for Chris.
Okay.
We spoke about efficiencies in scale on governance around 1500. Is there any similar data on efficiency of size and scale of BOCES?
Little one, why is the southern boundary the way it is?
Can you say more?
It's, no, the purple. Why is, so it's Wyndham County on the right and Bennington County on the left. Why does it go
Those are
so?
the VSA regions, right? These are
The current VSA region.
Right, so
Yeah, so is it,
Okay.
it just looks funny
right,
and strange
Yeah.
and not what I'm used to seeing. So,
yeah, I guess I'll.
and there's mountains in between.
I'll voice what I was thinking that I didn't say is, I'm wondering if the existence of the VSA regions was because some were working on certain things and those superintendents got together to work on them, or if some were more effective and other superintendents started joining them because they were, effective or less effective. And so is it the right structure to use, right, for this thing? Is it working as well as we think it's working, right?
Another curiosity as you asked that.
Looking around for Chelsea.
How does it include or leave broken up the overlaying of a VSBA map, for instance? I know that exists too with the regions.
That's a good question. Beth?
And also add to that existing supervisory union, supervisory district borders and how they meet up with that. And it's some adjustment of the lines maybe would have to happen, but.
That one might be solved for the fact that it was a VSA
It might be, but
map.
it's a-
Right, yeah, no,
something to
good
look at.
question.
We had also asked what legislative changes would need to occur to allow for something like this to happen.
We know that currently, BOCES can only be opt-in. So if we're, right, right now, the way the law said, you have to choose to join together to make it happen. So we're wondering, what else?
Can districts get out of it if they want to?
We were wondering if we have the expertise already in the state to do this, or if we'd need to use consultants, or what we would need to get this going. Scott?
Could it, not an opt-out, but could it, well, I guess it maybe is an opt-out, but could a district still decide to provide all these services on its own and not, could they? I mean, we have some large districts in the state, and we could have more. But, okay.
Can districts now provide services to other districts for compensation?
For compensation.
Well,
If you pay for it, like
Yeah.
if you
you
buy
can,
it.
okay,
Yeah, they do.
okay.
Good? Is that
Can I
one
just-
more, Kim?
I was just gonna ask if I could pull on that a little bit to that question. Is that would not necessarily be true for contracted licensed educators, or it might be. I wasn't sure if that was more a business operation question. Can they contract and share that and bill it out or whatever, or?
My question was just following up on Scott's question, because if there are districts who have capacities more than other districts, I just wanted to know they could
Buy it from
have
each other or something.
inter-district contracts. And I guess I got a yes.
And
Okay.
that question might be it might be two questions, right? It might be licensed staff and operations. So I guess if it isn't, that's the question.
I think that's what I was going to say. Like, would the employees of the BOCES be eligible for collective bargaining? And how would that work?
Depends on whether it's government agency or private nonprofit.
Bingo.
And other things.
Yeah.
Right, like if it's, administrative staff, right, like there are different, I mean, there are all kinds of different questions, so yeah.
Jay might be, so in other states, like what are BOCES? Are they private nonprofits or are they government agencies?
In New York and Pennsylvania, the only two that I'm really familiar with,
Yeah.
they're government agencies. Yeah.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, we can let you two wrap on this, and then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, it seems like there are a couple categories. One is just questions about the map, the what and the why of the map. The second bundle is the cost, the consultants, how it interfaces with what currently exists. The third one is around required or not required, what are the rules? And then the fourth is around what a BOCES would actually do, and how do you do for discrepant needs in different areas. So those are the sort of the four bundles. Did I miss any, Rebecca?
Yeah, I thought they were great. I think this was so helpful in terms of specifying the kind of initial reaction we're going to get, and it helps us think about what to emphasize and help clarify. Some of these do have concrete answers, and some of the answers are actually in that document, which I know none of you had time to read.
I looked it over.
But, well, or maybe you didn't, then I'm sorry it was so late.
all right.
But, so some of them are, I mean, there's issues, there's an appeals process, there's a provision that when these are set up, there's some negotiation around borders based on local requests, because we realize these might not be the right borders. And in fact, the little weird things that you see on that map, those are vestigial impacts of prior consolidations or mergers. And so that's why, Thetford is cut off from its home, and I forget what that district is on the left, is sort of cut off, but that's because of how the Mountain Views district, I think, expanded. So those are vestigial things that you would have to allow for some local sort of reshaping and cleaning of those borders to sort of fix it. I think the question about Chittenden County is a really good one. There is currently a Chittenden County ESA, and that is in that region, which is kind of where like, okay, well, let's see how this goes. But I think that's a legitimate question to make sure that the needs, which are pretty diverse from the north of that thing down to the south. So I think that's a very, very
Madison,
important question.
Chittenden,
Yep.
Franklin, Grand Isle.
Yep. These are governmental entities, the way it's written in law. They are not nonprofits. They could contract with a nonprofit for some services, but it would be run by a governmental entity. In terms of how BOCES would work with the AOE, I'd be very curious to get feedback on how it's positioned in this document and where we need to beef it up. In some ways, it's an amplifier of AOE capacity. If we have a legislative initiative that comes through, it gives the ability for the AOE to help the BOCES understand these are the technical requirements of statute, this is what needs to be done, these are the standards, or if you're talking about federal programs, assuming we have any anymore, it will be the entity that sort of holds people accountable for compliance with federal and state law, federal and state rule, but the BOCES could do that sort of rollout in a systematic and coherent way. So from the agency's point of view, it's 5-touch as opposed to 52-touch, and it also means that regionally there's an accountability around implementation. The cost shifting one is tough. We are now the state with the highest healthcare premiums in the country. Nothing both these BOCES are going to do to touch that. That's negotiated at the state level. So there's some things that we can't. Mental health services, if the DAs collapse, it's going to all fall back on school districts anyway, because in law, that's what happens.
Yep.
So it's hard to address some of those things, and I don't think merger is going to change that either. So part of what we're going to have to differentiate, or one of the things that mergers will fix, one of the things that BOCES are fixed, and one of the things neither of them is going to fix. And I think that's going to be a reality. I'm trying to think if there are any other quick ones. I think the goal was not to have overlap, but I do think in terms of services, you've pointed out examples, and we've seen that too in the research. Sometimes BOCES will develop a specific capacity really well, and the BOCES can actually facilitate contracts between BOCES as well, so that you don't have to have everybody develop something 25 times over or 52 times over. If someone did an amazing job with contracting for tech, then you just take that model or whatever it is. So but it's easier to do that across 5 entities than it is across 52 sometimes, is sort of the logic. Jen, what are the other things that came out?
I think that you covered it. I mean, I took notes. I would love to do a thumbometer on what people think of this as an idea, meaning, and not just the BOCES, but the two-part, the bifurcate is the right word, the BOCES in conjunction with a strategic merger. Great idea, no, and you can kind of do this. So can people just kind of tell?
Before we do that,
Oh, yeah, sure.
sorry, because only one person had a question about the strategic merger piece. And do you want feedback on that, or are you planning to create a structure for that, or is that not?
I think it's hard for you. I mean, out of respect for you, I think it's hard to give feedback because we didn't really give you very much, except to say that we would like to follow an evidence-based process that pays strict attention to what our best practice for implementation would be, and has a more disciplined process for getting local input. I mean, I think those are sort of the considerations, but I think a lot of the questions that we have about all maps will still be present for any of those maps.
Can I ask one other small thing for next time? Not now. If you could come back with some of the pitfalls of BOCES, like we've heard all of the wonderful attributes, but are there some struggles or pitfalls? And
Yeah.
maybe it was in the presentation, but I don't remember.
They're not in the presentation. There
Okay.
are some in the template.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are, and I think a weakness of our state has been, and so you'll see it emphasized over and over again, why it matters, is high-quality implementation with fidelity and follow-through.
Right. Yep, I did
We
see
just
that.
are not great as a state at having disciplined, sustained focus
Yeah.
to support
Got
implementation.
it.
And so I would say that just as mergers will bomb out if we don't do a good job, if we do a bad job with BOCES, it's going
Right.
to bomb out too.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Then we can go to the
Those thumbs.
thumbometer.
Thumbs up,
the
down,
silent B.
sideways, or anything in between.
I think it's worth.
Done right.
We're pursuing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pursuing. It goes up if there's a connection to VSA regions for me, because I think it's a good 10 framework, as Jay and I were talking about.
Yeah, it's a nice
I
organic
think it fits very well
structure.
that way.
Great, okay. Jay,
Sorry, a question
that's
just
okay.
dawned on me.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful too to have a little more information on funding models for
Yeah.
Yeah,
these.
a lot of it's, yeah, I have started that. I did not have time to get it in. It's okay.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for the great questions, everybody. We will now
There's some in there. There's
pass
some of that in the bill.
the mic over to Sue, who is going to take us through a mapping workshop.
Well, thank you. So we're going to continue something similar to what you all just were doing, but with a whole lot less information. Maud, if you could put up the slide 10, that would be great.
Your slides?
Yes, please. So just to recap kind of where we are and where we're going. So the hope is that on the 28th, which is just a couple of weeks from now, we get to do what we've done today and talk through the maps that you all have identified, gather feedback, and then come back and talk to them about them again one more time on November 10th. And then at that point, on the 10th, we'll hopefully make decisions about which ones you actually want to recommend to the legislature. And then at the final meeting later in November, then we'll talk about the report and how we talk about this work. So that's our trajectory. And right now what we have agreement on is 4 maps. So the CTE map with, if you could go to the next slide, that would be great. So that Dave and Scott would continue taking the lead on working on that. Wendy and Beth working on the county map. Rebecca, you're doing double duty here, working on regional comprehensive high schools. BOCES map. So before we move on, I just wanted to see if there's anything we have missed. This is like the chance for people to say there's some additional scenario that we would like to look at.
I don't know if this is the right time, but I took notes and posed questions to our work group regarding what came up at the last meeting, so we could be well prepared next time. And I don't know if you're looking for those questions now to be vetted, not answers, but just, are we on the right track trying to answer these questions? If not, I could do that another way or another time.
So let's not start with yours, and you can see the questions that I've posed to the group.
Okay.
And then if you think for your purposes, you have a different set of questions that would be more helpful, then we
Fine.
can pivot to those questions. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay?
Yep.
Wendy has a
Go
question.
ahead, Wendy.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier today about having a map not as a proposed map, but as a reference map of towns or districts who have indicated already that they're interested in combining with another. So I don't know if you want that map on this,
So
if that's
I-
appropriate for this conversation.
Yes, so John is working on that right now as we speak, right, John? And he's working on mapping all of the districts that the VSBA survey highlighted who are already talking to each other. So that is a question, would the group want to try to work on a scenario that incorporates some of that thinking?
Can I just ask a verification question? When they're talking to each other, does that mean they're saying they want to be in an SU together or they want to be in an SD together? They're talking about merging.
I only looked at that document quickly, but I think
Okay.
it means a whole lot of different
Okay,
things.
so it'd be helpful to have a map that differentiates, otherwise it's not gonna be clear how to make sense of that.
Like those things with this process, it will be nuanced and
We appreciate you.
have a number of different layers.
We appreciate you.
So because of the time frame, I guess for this to be viable, we would need some people on the task force to say yes, that they would work with John on that map and see what might come up as possibilities around that. Are there people around this table who would be willing to take that on?
We're looking at those of you.
I so want to say
Let me
yes.
ask,
I know we should.
so if this perhaps wasn't called a map, but instead was a layer of, so that it was just information that we could refer to when we're making a map, that might be a better way to do it. So it's not an official map, it's just a layer of information.
How about even just a list?
I think seeing it geographically would be
Yeah.
really helpful.
With a list, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I look
sure.
at this map and I'm like, I don't-
Yeah, and a list, yeah, yeah.
I'm happy to be a resource to John.
Okay.
I'm not so sure I should volunteer for a whole lot else, but
Let's just ask John a technical question. It seems like once we have a clear list, if you had coding conventions, it would be pretty easy for you to just make the map, right? We just have to have clarity around the coding. Am I correct?
Yes, and as I work through these, that's going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
Even in defining what some of these, this isn't a one-to-one.
Right.
Right.
Some of these entities aren't actually necessarily districts or.
Right, right.
So
they should, yeah.
try to
Jay?
clean things up and maybe it'll take shape and maybe it'll
Not take
maybe
shape.
raise more questions than
Okay.
answers.
Thanks, John. Yeah,
Okay.
Jay?
I was going to suggest that maybe we reach out to VSBA and VSA to see if they could help us in that, look through their communication network with all the districts, to see who's actually taking concrete steps to have these discussions.
Yeah, okay.
I think it
I
was
was gonna say-
in the, wasn't it
Survey.
in that report from the SBA?
That's what he's using.
But that's only the 67 who responded. There may be another 60 who've been having these conversations that didn't respond to that survey, but have had conversations about who they would like to merge with.
If we were to work with them, I'd be happy to reach out and maybe send them a more structured survey
Just
that
that
could
question.
then result in maybe less miscommunication or data that we could use more immediately.
So what if we add this on the 28th as something to consider as either a possible overlay of information to inform what you all are doing, or as a potentially a thing that could turn into a map? Does that work for people?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Because this is your moment to suggest some other interesting idea of maps to look at, or once we move forward, then the window on that being a feasible possibility probably starts to close because of timing.
Kim?
I was just going to say, I don't have anything to add. Definitely don't want to be assigned something either. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just checking, pulse check to see if we still think all four are the level of depth. We want to go to the same level of depth with all four maps. Is that
That's coming up in this conversation.
Oh, good. Okay, thank
Yep.
you. And then are we going to define what a regional high school is before we decide to build maps around it?
We're already building.
Let's have a conversation.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's coming, right?
Jay.
Okay.
Do we
perfect.
reserve the right as a task force to go through all this deliberation and decide that there is no possible map that we can recommend?
Yeah.
Sure.
It's up to 3 maps, which could be 0.
Right, okay.
I would feel like we didn't
Yeah.
we didn't do the task of the task force if we did that.
Yes.
So I wouldn't suggest we just say we give up and throw our hands up. It would have to be a very well-reasoned, because of all these different reasons, we're unable to provide a map as requested. It would, I'm just thinking ahead that if we come to loggerheads and can't agree on a map, what do we do then?
Yeah, I mean, based on the way we have structured the time for the rest of this task force, I don't see that happening, right? I see that we will be able to produce a map, at least one, likely 3. But if we can't, we can't, right? And and then as long as we have done the best that we can do, which I think the best that we can do is something. But it might be, we might hit something that, I don't know, some federal change could happen, and then we could be in a different place where it's not the right time, or it's not, something like that, right?
Wait, you're worried about Medicaid?
Among other things.
I'm just kidding.
Among other
I'm
things.
teasing
I try
you.
not to worry.
Okay, great. So I just added a question. Maud, if you could refresh the slide and then move to the next one. So what we want to do is, what we just did, is break up into small groups, and we'll give you 10 minutes for each conversation. And here's a couple of questions to ask, and we'll start with why don't we start with the county map, and we'll circle back to the CTE map at the end. We probably don't need to do the BOCES map because we just did that. So that leaves us the county map and the comprehensive regional high school map. And so I have some questions for you to consider, and we'll break up into small groups, spend about 10 minutes or so, and then come back. And again, I'm very aware of the quality of questions you were able to generate after hearing from Jen and Rebecca were fantastic. So this is a little bit harder, but we're still hoping it can bring the collective wisdom of the whole task force to the task at hand, so that when people go into their small subgroups to work on maps, they have the benefit of the whole group's thinking. Does that make sense? Okay. So if we can go to the next slide, please, Maud. So here are just a couple of questions. What's the potential for this map to make things better? What are some key questions or assumptions that need to be explored? What trade-offs or tensions might this particular map surface, and how could we navigate them? And then I added, should we even move forward with this? Because I think that's also legitimate. So let's start with the county map, and I'll set the timer for 10 minutes, and people can talk, and then we'll hear what people are coming up with. If you all just turn your attention to the table for a minute. So what I'd like to do now is, Maud, if you wouldn't mind, you could actually show the document that I'm taking notes on. It's not that important, but so what I'd like to do is do this as a brainstorm. And so think of it this way. You're just giving your colleagues the most information you can to help guide their work. And so this isn't about discussion or talking about ideas, but just to brainstorm. So I just want to hear a brainstorm of what potential does this county map have to make things better? So you can just popcorn and I'm going to capture it.
Boundaries are known. So that will eliminate a lot of concern about what will happen.
Okay.
Other services are provided through the counties.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Mental health services, et cetera.
There are government agencies, so they're able to do things like revenue, levy, do government-y things in their unit.
So am I on the right page? Sorry.
No, if you can go down a little bit. Or up, sorry. There you go. If you keep going, there you can see where I'm taking notes.
Oh, great. Which you'll send to us.
Yes, I'm going to send you these notes.
I would venture that.
Okay, other ideas about how this map could make things better?
You're very right. You guys have a big one.
There's an identity with your county.
A little bit.
There's history, and also the size was when they were laid out, when the selectmen would walk the county line, it's in general about the same size.
I mean,
That's
geographically.
Geographically, and rivers and streams and stuff.
Okay. Geographic boundaries, yeah.
We've tried it before.
Yep. There used to be school districts by county
Really?
in the early 1900s.
I'll find the date. I'll send it to everybody. I've got the article.
Twice it happened.
Why'd we give up?
Only last
Don't go there, Scott.
Because everyone got knocked out of office, Scott.
Okay, so now let's go on to key questions or assumptions that would need to be explored with this map.
One of
Go
our
ahead,
big
Jay.
ones. What to do about our existing SUSDs that straddle county lines currently? Do you adjust or do you dissolve?
We called those the overlappers and the splitters.
Yeah.
Okay, what other assumptions or questions?
What about the two smalls and the two bigs? The islands,
Yeah.
Chittenden,
Essex.
Essex.
Okay,
Two smalls and two bigs as general, like,
TOO, not TWO.
I was
Thank
gonna
you.
say, there's only one big.
TOO.
TO.
sorry.
I don't know if we had it here or the next one about the straddlers.
Does it require a change in existing governance structure when you get put in with somebody that you weren't in with before across those county lines, from non-operating to operating, tuition, not tuition, just changes in governance that could happen?
Okay. Other questions or assumptions to explore? What about trade-offs or tensions?
That might be where I put that one, actually, was the tensions. Kind of fit in both.
The historical quality of services in the counties varies.
That's true.
There could potentially be cost shifts, once again, from other funds to the education fund because it's aligned with the county for things like social services, mental health services.
From what fund to the education fund?
Whatever those county mental health services or social services agencies, because they're both in the county, they could say, oh, we'll just shift this to the education fund.
Okay. Any other trade-offs or tensions?
I think with the largeness, you run the risk of closures and choosing to operate or not, because they would be larger districts.
I think, so you're saying, the bigger the area, the more dissimilarity you're gonna have?
There's a variety.
Yeah, okay.
And then the decision, if you're one district, what we talked about before,
Yeah.
because you and I are in the same district, you can't have something that I don't have.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. And then the last one, I think I liked the thumbs up, thumbs sideways. Do people feel that this has enough promise that the task force should move forward with the development of this map?
I think we have three better options.
Wow. Okay, so
Sorry.
if this body is making decisions by majority, which they agreed to do, that means we would not move forward with this map.
And I think not appreciating those things, for me, it's that the other options solve more of the problems, for instance, CTE, than the problems created by the border, the boundaries, those that are overlapping counties. As we spoke through it, it felt that the resources required to do a thorough analysis of this might be better directed at fleshing through the CTE model, for instance, where you have somewhat similar catchment without some of the boundary issues.
I think we agreed with that concept too.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to regional comprehensive high schools. Before we do that, I think I heard somebody say, do we have a definition for those? And so maybe it would just help if the people who are working on that could just start with, how are you defining that to help inform the conversation?
Well, we haven't seen the map, so it's hard to.
It may be
Right.
hard for people to.
It's true, it's the only one we haven't.
I was going to ask just for the opportunity for a disclaimer, because you haven't seen the map yet.
Right.
And
Right.
I'll just give you a couple of sort of spoilers.
Okay.
I mean, the regional comprehensive high school, regional comes from the law, looking at regional high schools, central middle schools, and local elementaries. And regional doesn't necessarily break down along county lines. And interestingly, it does very much seem to track with career and tech centers. So when I started doing this work, I appreciated the work done on the CTEs. And when we talk about comprehensive high schools, we're talking about high schools that offer a full academic program as well as a career and tech program. Like the school we're sitting in right now, as a matter of fact. And so beyond that, I don't have any better definition.
Okay.
But it's career and tech and academics located in a region.
And the one addition is that going through that mapping process was very helpful for identifying areas that are served, but also areas that are actually quite significantly underserved, and there's some surprises in there. So I think it was a good exercise in thinking about how well we're actually providing that promise across the state.
Okay, thank you. So Jay and Rebecca have made a start on this. You're going to see it next time, but let's share your best thinking with them so they have some more to work with as they continue their work.
Can I ask one quick question? Does it rely on only existing buildings, only existing high schools?
I guess without giving away too much, I'd say not necessarily.
Okay.
It may identify locations where there is a comprehensive high school needed.
Okay.
Based on travel times and that sort of thing.
Okay,
And
great.
it could be the centrifugal force for a merger proposal down the road, for
Right.
example.
Great. Okay, let's have you all talk and identify answers to some of these questions.
One more thing, did it presume a tech center connection or not, or attaching to a tech center or independently?
I would say either. Well, interesting. The APA report really talked about how the benefit of CTE was greater in those schools that were actually contiguous.
Yeah.
But contiguous or nearby, I would say. So that there wasn't a huge transportation problem, and it's a matter of equitable access as well. So identifying those places right now that are difficult for kids to get those services.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have you get your 10 minutes to talk.
So what potential to make it better?
Be in
Access to potential.
All right, so we're going to do the same thing we did last time. And again, a quick brainstorm. Again, the idea is to help your colleagues have the best kind of questions that they can have to inform their work. So let's start with what potential does this map have to make things better?
Improved opportunities for students.
Okay, what else?
We talked about the barrier that exists right now, which is that some districts, it's hard for them to want to give the money up to send a kid to a tech center. It's a struggle and a barrier, and this could potentially remove that barrier.
Okay, what
If
else?
they're co-located, it's better efficiencies, transportation,
You're talking about high schools and tech centers. are
regional comprehensive,
And outcomes.
and outcome.
And educationally, where you have, as they have in Rutland, the kids from 7 high schools can take courses at Rutland High, which is part of the same building.
And it might ease, if you believe there's any stigma attached to tech ed, then it can ease that because you're all together in one campus.
You don't have dual citizenship anymore.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think also tech ed is changing and CTE is changing and some stuff is very, and there will always be tech programming that is very resource intense and has to have its own specialized facility. But some of the programs in some of our CTEs were actually programs that were developed for comprehensive high schools. So there's no reason we shouldn't be supporting implementation in those places. And they actually don't need the very resource intense and appropriately resource intense programs that exist.
I would add that it could, if state funded, or part of it state funded, it could respond to state workforce development needs.
More effectively.
And regional,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Oh, now I've lost it.
I'll
Oh,
go.
shoot.
Better
Go.
co-curricular opportunities for all students across the state.
Yeah.
And it starts with where kids are now, too. It's based on where kids are.
Great. Okay, Jay, did you get your thought back?
No, it's gone.
Okay, we'll come back if you get it. What key questions or assumptions would need to be explored?
I think checking in on what the pre-K through 12 accountability will be. If we're designing these around regional high schools, what does that sweep in for what that experience is pre-K 12? And what's the accountability to that full continuum of outcome for students and opportunities?
What commitment will we need to make in terms of expanding existing career and tech centers / high schools, and what happens in those areas where there's a lack of access to a career and tech center? Are we going to plan to build?
Yes, and that, mine piggybacks nicely onto that, which is the facilities, score. We have those scores for facilities now, like what is the state of the buildings? And if they're really bad, which many of them are, what are we gonna do about it?
School quality index.
There we go, that's it.
I think we had, same as before, what to do about the too bigs and the too big and the too smalls.
Oh, I remember my thing.
Okay.
Okay, I think the map aligns very well with the inclusion or establishment of BOCES.
Great. What about trade-offs or tensions?
I think the tensions are all the high schools that aren't regional. What happens to them? Yeah, that's the tension.
Like before, changing boundaries, change governance models, choice.
Same list, we can just repeat
Same
it.
list. For any map, but-
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Rebecca.
Maybe this is a sneak preview, so Jay, tell me if you want me to shut up. But I think it's also interesting because when you think through this lens, it also may raise questions for some regions of the state that are, I will say, over high schooled at the
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, places that are too small. There's also places that clearly have too many high schools.
That would be a conversation.
It's a conversation we need to have, but it's
Yeah.
pretty stark, actually.
Yeah.
Over high school. Is that an adjective?
I don't know. I don't know. No, I mean, it just, I mean, we're always talking about the small, like a problem, but the reality is, I mean, maybe the places that need to do mergers aren't actually all in rural areas, just saying.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
And I think
Intentions.
Stay tuned.
I'm not sure that it's tensions. I think I might have missed saying it earlier, but it frames us around educational opportunities for students and starting to say out loud what those can look like, which in some cases may be what people are experiencing or maybe things that people hadn't even considered as possible. So I appreciate the vision of a future we would wish for. That's a good point.
Great. Okay, anything else before we move on to the big question? Go ahead.
I'd say one trade-off or tension might just be that it may take a substantial amount of time to implement such a system.
And money,
And money, correct.
Cost shifting.
but also cost to put the buildings where they need to be.
But if
So
I were-
actual cost.
Just lift them up and
Little
move them.
sneak
There's some old-time Vermonters who can do that.
I'll say-
Those big trucks.
I'll say publicly,
Don't follow them on 302 though.
I would just say publicly that I'd definitely buy municipal bonds to build new schools in Vermont where they should be and providing more resources.
All right.
So another tension or trade-off is, could be around community culture and identity.
Oh, yeah.
Mascots.
There's,
The M word.
It matters so much.
It matters to
It does,
people. It really
yeah.
does.
Oh, yeah.
It's a tension for sure.
Great, and then should we move forward with this map?
We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it sounds
Well,
It's in my
the-
top three.
It sounds like, it sounds like people, you came up with a pretty
trying to
long
envision
list
it.
of how it might make things better, so that seems good.
It's easy to roll with what you haven't seen.
True. Okay, so then that brings us to the CTE map, and so I have a question for the group. Scott and Dave worked on something, they actually have some answers to some of the questions you asked last time, so we can do two things. We can do this same brainstorm so that they can get some more of your collective thinking to incorporate in their work between now and the 28th, or for this one, we could have them share some of the answers to the questions you asked last time. What would you prefer?
if we had a vote, we'd want to respond to your questions at the next meeting, because it would take too long within the time that you have.
Perfect.
We submitted, I copied down 7 or 8 questions that we're looking at.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So let's do this again with the CTE map, and this will give you even more info too. Is 10 minutes the right amount of time?
Yeah.
Is that okay? It's not
Because we've
too
seen
long?
CTE.
Okay, so let's go through this again with the CTE maps. Okay, everybody. We're gonna come back together.
I hear a bell and I think I have to move.
Okay, so this is our last round of this.
There's just like,
And again, let's hear people talk about what potential this map has to make things better.
One would be simplifying the CTE governance. We currently have, 4 different models statewide? It could be simplified to one, perhaps.
We echo that.
yeah.
Greater access and opportunity.
Builds on existing structure.
Pedagogical model of CTE is excellent and might be able to expand in this model.
It's possible that we won't be fighting over dollars, so kids won't be, kids' opportunities to go to CTE will be greater.
I just got to point out that the small schools are injured the most by losing CTE kids, but they also send CTE kids to CTEs in higher proportions than larger high schools. I just think we ought to check our assumptions here.
Oh, it's just about.
Yeah, yeah.
So Rebecca, say that as an assumption and I'll put that down.
No,
It's
I don't
not-
think
it's
we
not an
disagree.
assumption.
Actually, we don't disagree.
No.
I just think we need, the fighting over
So-
dollars things, I just think needs a heck of a lot of unpacking before
Mhm.
we make that the basis of policy, and I think you would agree with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So for assumptions, money, question mark. Smaller schools send higher percentage of kids to CTE, comma, it also hurts them financially.
But they lose the.
They lose-
the
they
stu-
lose
the
the
scale.
scale.
They lose scale most,
Yeah.
you feel the scale most.
We want the money to be able to move freely without being,
I think it's less about that. I think it's
Yeah, I
more
agree.
about the student should be the center, right? So it's, the finances shouldn't be limiting the students from having their
Opportunities.
opportunity.
yeah, we agree.
Okay. Any other benefits or assumptions that need to be explored or questions?
I know, I'm grateful to you guys, David, there, Scott, we're going first. There are I've gotten a lot of emails about this, and I think it's just because people think this is what we're doing, about the CT areas actually cut current districts in half.
I had that
And
in the
people are.
Oh, they do, yeah.
Yeah, so I think just like where there's a provision in the BOCES Act for people to appeal, I think there has to be some way to accommodate the reality of how people are organized in districts.
Would it help turn around the dropout rate if we expanded the focus on CTE?
So you put that under potential,
It was,
or is that a question?
it was back to
The earlier.
the earlier one.
Yeah.
And if there one district, would it make it easier to have industry partnerships?
Oh,
Yes.
question.
Not fighting about that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just a question.
And also easier to push comprehensive programming in other schools within the district. You could make it accessible, unless you use the BOCES on top, in which you're gonna make it accessible anyway. I think
Accountability of the governance unit, whatever we're calling it in this moment, but accountability to the pre-K-12 experience inclusive of comprehensive CTE.
Is that a question or a potential benefit?
I am not sure. I think no, it is a question because it's not identified. It wasn't identified in the map, so.
Can you say it again, Kim?
Accountability of the governance unit.
So what is the accountability?
What will the accountability be in the governance unit?
Got it. Across the entire.
Across the pre-K-12 experience for students.
Will folks who aren't tuned into Education app understand that question?
Who's in charge?
I think it matters
and
most
how do
when
we
the
make
map
sure
is
that
Okay,
kids have
true,
opportunities?
okay.
Isn't it the same as any district? I'm not sure I understand that question.
I think it's because it wasn't addressed in the previous presentation of the CTE, and there were a lot of assumptions on the map about efficiencies that would be had that may or may not be true if we've not defined what that governance accountability is supposed to be.
Depending if it's an SU or SD for CT.
In our current construct, but since we've taken to calling it governance unit, I don't really care what it's called, as long as there's some accountability across
Across the
that
spectrum.
system that makes a difference about how kids are going through that whole system, pre-K-12.
So if I could just.
Jay was next and then Beth.
I was going to say, I'm not sure if it's a question or a trade-off, but are we prepared to expand access to ensure that all students are able to take advantage of CT who want it?
Might be some holes.
We are,
And
yeah.
regionally, I think you mean, right?
Yep,
As well.
because we've already identified,
Some regions.
yeah.
I guess I was just trying to make sure I understood, or sort of reframe, that when we looked at CTE, the focus was really high school students. But what is the entire plan pre-K through 12 experience, not just the CTE portion
Yeah,
of it, right?
because is that, if this is our new governance unit
We're looking at-
centered around CTE and the maps we got, there were some assumptions made that would be
Yeah.
achieved if they were school districts, but
What does it mean
the
for?
proposal was agnostic to the
Yeah.
governance unit.
Okay.
So I just care that there's accountability.
Okay, thank you.
So if there, this is a question, right? If there's a new governance unit, we'll say school district, whatever it is, around the CTE catchment area, how do the layers of administration still like fit in together? How does that puzzle get put back together?
Because there are 4 CTE school districts, there are 11 CTE technical centers, and there are 5 high schools with tech programs, which is different than the regions, which is the map.
And you still have a superintendent in a school district who is now going to be part of this bigger catchment area that is all one unit. And so how, like, I guess that's the rest of my question. What does the whole business back end supervising of that unit look like?
And
with
the
that.
different tiered programs that currently exist and the transition and the change, which is quite a bit different than just looking at school districts and supervisory unions, because it's a whole other.
It's another layer
Complication.
But if
in
it's
there.
a map that is defining, we're redistricting, so if it's a map that's refining the district by a CTE, then we have to figure out how that's gonna operate
But
and
it's
handle all the other
defining it by a
tasks.
CTE, I believe what you did on regions in the state.
Yeah.
Which is different than the designations.
Right.
Yeah, we just use the regional advisory, just like the BOCES just use
Yeah.
the superintendent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And within those are different constructs.
Right.
But might not be, I mean, I think it depends if it's a supervisory district or an SU. And if it's an SU, I think a question we need to ask is what's the impact on superintendents of making much bigger SUs organized around CTEs?
Did we already say the too big, too small?
Yes.
Okay.
Just put that on
Just
the
cut and
end.
paste.
Sue is on superintendents. Like, what I'm worried about is wholesale resignation. Yeah. Yeah.
Did I catch it? Yeah.
See, plural.
Okay. And then the kind of test, is this the one you all want to continue to pursue? Okay, great. So we have 3 minutes left in this section, and I just want to pause and invite people to offer any kind of big picture takeaways that you got from this conversation, either something you heard that's going to really help you as you make your map, or a big question you're sitting with that kind of cuts across all of the different options.
Just a procedural question. So have we definitely agreed that we are not continuing the county map? We are not, because I just want to make sure
Yeah, that's
before
what
I
I
say,
heard.
okay, I'm not working on
And
it.
I really, I just want to say, I really appreciate what we were able to do so far, and
Yeah.
hopefully they'll be able to, the other maps will be
Use
able
it,
to
yeah.
use
Yeah.
the
Sure.
structures
Okay,
that we
just wanted to double check. Rebecca.
Just one more attention. As we heard earlier, CTE tuition is probably going to be much higher, so we will probably see significant increase in costs associated with this if our focus is expanding CTE. This is not a plan that's going to save money, is my guess.
One observation that I have is
I'm not saying that's bad, I'm just saying.
we're talking, like, we haven't taken a map and said, oh, Reedsboro and Huntington and Newark and Starksboro. We've been talking in generalities, and my question is, when we do a thermometer and we say, yes, move on, at what point do we actually have the map with the names? And that is a point, to your point earlier, Edie, about how that's when people say, oh, there's my name, and this is what this map is. And I do think, as we move into the next phase of putting the names to places, given the construct of the map, we need to be thoughtful about this, because,
Yeah, so just to, before we move on from that, so next meeting, right, we're gonna have 3 detailed maps to look at. We'll have another meeting after that to refine them and do all of that. But you're right, like, just to be aware, next meeting, a lot of big feelings across the state could be surfaced. And I just need to keep reminding folks that whatever we put forward, so next meeting is an iteration, the following meeting is likely to be the final-ish map that we're gonna have, nothing happens unless the legislature puts it in place. So we're making recommendations. There's more time for the legislature to dig in deeper. We have 4 months to do this work. We're gonna do the best we can in the time that we have. But you're right, like next meeting, if we haven't seen big feelings yet, we're gonna see them then, like after that meeting. And it's okay, right? We all have to react to what we have in front of us. And hopefully we can be forward-looking, and hopefully we can look at opportunities and understand that change is hard for everyone.
Can I just add on to that and say that there are probably maps being generated right now that we are not even privy to, that will come up in the legislative session. So, but just to put the context out there for folks, there will be other maps as well.
Yes.
Freelance map.
And if I
Yeah.
could
Sorry, Kim.
add to that, I don't know if we would consider it freelance, but I know that there's draft language from the Agency of Education right now to have a district that is all the CTEs. So that is a tension, I would say, in conflict with the work we're trying to do to incorporate CTE opportunities in the full experience for students.
We noticed that the CTE map potentially plays nicely with the regional high schools and even the BOCES.
We did
Like
too.
the
Yeah,
three of
that's what we
those
said, yeah.
all seem to work well together.
I think there's different logics under them though.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I just have to say, it's easy to talk about big feelings. There are people working so hard, and I have personal regret that as a state, we have spent years with mergers, and people are just trying to take care of kids. So the reason people are upset is they are working so hard to do the best in the current moment. And so it's we have to understand how serious this is. This is real. That's why people are upset.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that one experience that I had in the last couple of weeks, talking to folks in the education world, we passed flexible pathways in 2013, and there are schools, districts in the state that still don't have the appropriate software to run it in a way that works for all of their kids, so that their kids actually have the flexible pathways that the legislature said that they need to have. And that's, what, 12 years later?
Well, and that's also because,
So-
respectfully, I was there to implement it because the legislature didn't put a dime into it.
Right,
And we had to take
right.
staff
So-
off other things to support it.
But what you're
Yeah.
saying is there are real tensions that are happening every day in schools. We're adding more tension by people not knowing what the future is. And so, yes, yes, 100%. Yeah.
And I want to add an addendum, going back to the BOCES presentation, is we said a lot of things in there, like better professional development, better business services, and this is absolutely no reflection on any individual school or school district, and that, oh, things aren't going well. It's about our state system, our overall system, and it just really is important to acknowledge that.
And I appreciate you saying that, and to acknowledge also that what is optimal for us individually or us as communities is sometimes sub-optimization for the state as a whole. And so there's always gonna be that tension there.
Very true.
I appreciate as we think about this and what the opportunities and our responsibilities are to students, that we need to be able to account for how we're doing with the resources entrusted to us to benefit our students. And it's hard when by design, we can't even report sometimes because we're so small. And so I just would remind us to try and design for better accountability in whatever model we choose.
Well, thanks, everybody. I
Thank
think
you.
you all
Thank
just did
you.
some really good work and thoughtful work. And I really appreciate the acknowledgement of the impact of just having this conversation on people who are working really hard to take care of kids. And also, if we zoom way out, it's not that easy of a time right now for a lot of different reasons. So just being mindful of that, I think, is super important. I appreciate that. So I'm going to keep going for just another minute. The next thing on the agenda is the task force report. We don't have a lot of updates, but one thing would you be able to put the outline up for the report.
I don't know whose paper is just,
What's that?
no, it's under my seat.
Oh, that was me. I didn't get it.
I didn't know whose handwriting it was. I just knew it wasn't mine.
If it's over here, it's on the
Floor down here, so I thought.
And Maud, it might be a little bit of an out-of-date copy too, so I could just send this to you.
You want to just send me a hard copy?
Yeah, I'll send it as a PDF, that's easier for you than Google Docs, right?
Is the 17th of November? Not the 20th. It's the 17th. Is that our last meeting? Yes. It's on the 20th of March. What?
Uh-oh.
We need to play.
Oh, yeah, we do.
One of these.
Huh.
Yeah, right.
So we need to do like a 7th inning stretch. You're like,
Oh, wait, Beth just said she has some free time. And she's taking it.
There's no way?
She says she's like a new assignment.
I remember the last time you volunteered.
Sorry.
So we don't have to have a big conversation about this, but hopefully everybody has access to this report outline. We've had a couple of people, Chris has volunteered to do some work and has done work on definitions of SUs and SDs. Rebecca has done some research that's going to go in one of the sections, and I think Scott had offered to take on a section. And again, what we're asking for is not necessarily a lot of writing, but just content, so that we have content that we need to inform the writing. And so I'm just going to encourage you all to look through this and put your name by sections where you feel like you're in a good position to share some content. And we have hopeful deadlines in here, so that we are working on pieces of this now, so that we don't get to the end and have a bunch of work to do. And the question I was going to ask, but maybe we can just ask it and have you all take a look, is whether you all came up with a very comprehensive outline, and I think it would be good if we're the point that we're at now, if you all take a look and see if you think there are some pieces of this that aren't necessary, so that we're writing a report that's as concise as it can be and does what we need it to do without being too overwhelming. So maybe we could just frame this as an action step for the task force between now and maybe the end of the next week to do those two, weigh in on those two things.
If my esteemed colleague has already written the definitions, I would encourage us to share them so that we're all working
We'll
from
do
the
it,
same
yes.
definition.
So I think the way that we'll do this is, as people send us content, I'll share it with the group, we'll get some feedback, and then we'll dump it into the document for additional feedback. Okay. So I have some content from you, Rebecca, and I have some content from Chris that we can send around. Okay. Edie or Martina, I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about things that need to happen to make sure we're moving this forward.
I don't.
I don't.
I think,
Will you be sharing what we just worked on the last hour and a half?
Yes, I have
Okay.
all of those. I have those detailed notes that I'll share with everyone.
okay. Are we ready to?
wow, it's 3 o'clock?
It's almost, yes, it's 3 o'clock.
Whoa, okay, so it is time for public comment. Public comments will be limited to no more than 2 minutes per person, and we did notice, Edie and I both noticed that there's a little bit of friction with the 2 minutes, because folks are starting with an introduction of themselves, which is totally understandable, but that's sometimes taking 30, 40, 45 seconds out of the 2 minutes. So we just want to make sure folks understand that, the 2 minutes is pretty inclusive of everything. So just to keep us going in a timely fashion, the task force requests that participants clearly state their name and their place of residence and the topic of comment. The task force will take no action on items raised during public comments, and dialogue exchanges will be for clarification. But we will have a reflection period at the end. And we ask that you submit your comments to the email address for the task force, adm.redistricting@vermont.gov. So do we have anyone in the room who is here for public comment today?
And if you're remote, you can pop your hand up. We will come to you.
Seeing none in the room, we can move to, we do have one? I think you do. Oh, I'm sorry.
I would like to comment if we could, please.
Okay, sure. Why don't we make space?
Great.
Changing my mind.
I'm not sure if I wanted to comment publicly that much, but.
Okay. We appreciate it.
There is one outside it. Yeah, Tanya wants to know.
Stacy Emerson, I'm from Topsom, Vermont. I am a school board chair, and I do represent Topsom, Corinth, Waitsford Valley School District. First, I'd like to say thank you to all of you. I know that it's a daunting task, and we appreciate it and know it's difficult work. And speaking publicly, I've realized that you're working with multiple maps here. I do think that we've all been forced before with Act 46, and it was a very difficult task then, and it is now. The one thing that I think our community would like to maintain is choice. And I know that with some of you, it's not, that big of a deal, but it is for our communities, and it's been a way of educating our kids and offering equities that they've been allowed to have throughout the years. When you talk about equitable education, you look at your districts and coming up with larger high schools. What will happen to sports? Who are teams going to play? There are just so many different issues that are rising out of these circumstances, and I think the things that we should be looking at with state government is special education. I mean, over the years, that's been a huge issue, and that's why our increases have occurred. Healthcare in our CBA union agreements, those are the things that are increasing our cost of spending educationally every year. In addition is the cost of our property insurance for our towns and our communities. All of those are factors throughout my 14 years being on the board that have increased our spending. It started to rise with I'm out of time. But anyway, I appreciate you listening, and thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Thank you.
Also, I would just say, please submit in writing if you have it.
Yep.
Anything
I
that you
did say
missed.
that, but we can say it
Thank
again.
you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else in the room have public comment?
Hi, my name is Kelsey Root Winchester. I'm from Wells River, Vermont, and I'm the chair of the Blue Mountain Union School Board, which is one of the member districts here at OESU. One of my concerns, and Stacy brought up a lot of them, so thank you for that, but us up at Blue Mountain, and I know we're not unique in the state, is that 86% of our students live in Caledonia County, and our school is geographically located in Orange County. And I know I've seen a few of the maps that are county maps, and I'm wondering about how that would affect schools like ours that are straddling that. We already work with some challenges with certain issues with services from other districts, so they will not come and service some of our Caledonia County kids because the school's in Orange County, vice versa, so we're already having that. But because we're also a border town, we're in border school, we work with a lot of other things. We do resources with New Hampshire. We share a bus contract. We try to work with different things with our teachers and find resources even though we have some of those challenges. And so I just encourage all of you who are working on these hard maps to keep some of those things in mind, because I know we're not alone. But counties are not all hard and fast here in Vermont.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Since my colleagues have been speaking, I can't. I'll try to be really short. I'm Mary Chin. I'm on the Thetford School Board and also Thetford member to the OESU board. And because of Rivendell's creation, while we're a part of Orange East, we're kind of separated from Orange East. And now we've been put in the voting district that is with Windsor County. Okay, so figuring out how we fit in all this is part of our challenge. And also the fact that we have the high school of Thetford Academy, which was the first high school in the state of Vermont ever. And so this is a part of our heritage, and this is our school. How these things all fit together is a real challenge. How Rivendell is impacted by all this legislation, how we want to keep our town together. We like having our town school board, yes. So I end up with lots of questions about everything that you all are dealing with, and this has been a very interesting conversation today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Anybody else in the room want to speak?
I will.
Okay, great. Come on up. Great.
Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Lawler. I'm the superintendent for Orange East. And thank you so much, all of you, for coming here today. I'm also a resident of Barnard, and I'm on the school board in Mountain Views. I see the work you're doing here and the maps you're making, and I know that we've sent you a letter. The board chair has sent you a letter today saying the SU would like to stay together in as much as practical. Thank you for the work on the BOCES. Please do consider that the Vermont Superintendent Association regions aren't really governance regions, and I hope you will listen to the voices of people as we may ask for shifts in that BOCES map. That would be really important that you were open to those, because you've heard the VSA say things like, we picked those regions based on restaurants that were in the middle. Yes, you've heard that. You've heard that. So I think that's all I have for you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room?
We'll come back to you also after we go online.
Seeing none, we can move to online public commentors. If there are any, please raise your hand and we'll call on you.
There's one.
Oh, there's one.
Sharon Ellingwood.
I'm nervous about how we get to hear this.
Okay. Sharon, you can go ahead.
I think she's muted.
Okay, not quite ready yet.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, Sharon.
We appreciate you.
Where did she go? Did she drop her hand?
Yes.
She did.
No, her hand's still up.
No, it's still up.
there.
It's still
Oh.
up. It's the top left.
Person on the
There we go.
tinier.
Okay.
That helps.
Allow camera. Here we go. This works.
Wait, Wait, we can't hear you yet. Hold on.
Are you unmuted at your end too? So we need to figure out how to get sound from the TV to you.
Or what, is somebody logged into Teams? Can they just unmute their machine? Are you in Teams?
I am.
If
We'll
you
have a
unmute
back-
your speaker, what happens?
Sharon, go ahead and try.
We can.
Speak loud. Maybe put.
Unraised my hand here. Good afternoon, Sharon Ellingwood, Leamington, Vermont, Essex County. Thank you so much for this wonderful, informative session. Essex County is Vermont's most geographically isolated region, as you know. I am a board member on the NEK Choice District and a board member on the Essex North Supervisory Union Board. In response to Act 46, 10 micro-rural remote towns came together for NEK Choice, and we formed a well-working, innovative, unified effort to serve students more equitably. Where a town had 8 students or 20 students, we have now joined together, and we have about 320 together. Particularly with pupil weighting, we came a long way to put our voices together and find our neighbors, and we answered the call for our Act 46 work. So we've been very active with the Act 73 work. Again, I'm grateful for everything I've heard today. We're working hard on our end. I just wanted to comment that the proposed CTE district map cuts the new innovative NEK Choice District in half. So it will cut us in half, then dilute us, and possibly put us in a bigger SU. So I wanted to comment to advocate for, after all the work we've done to answer the call for a unified student-centered model, it would be kind of a travesty for us. It would undo years of progress and limit, what we've started. We still do not have universal pre-K for our students that are a mile from a New Hampshire school, and we're still really fighting for that. Those are my comments. I appreciate your time on the real-world impact that the maps and this work has on our kids in the most geographically isolated part of the state. I have a map that I'm going to include with my comments to the ADM redistricting email that shows the amount of federal land, public land, and easement land in Essex County that highlights our geographic isolation in colored layers. That's all. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks.
Anyone else online who would like to speak at public comment? Please raise your hand.
It's true. It's true.
There is? Oh, okay. We do have someone in the room, so come on up, sir. Welcome.
And again, if you're online, put your hand up. We'll get
We'll
you
get to
in the
you.
queue. We will have more robust public comment, or I guess additional public comment later at our community engagement meeting as well. So.
Thank you. I'm Terry Martin. I'm a member of the Rivendell Interstate Schools District and a board, former vice chairman of that board, and currently just serving in the Finance and Facilities Committee. We're a small school, and the options of these interstate school districts need to be considered at least at some level at this accounting, and perhaps some of the opportunities that could present themselves might be included in your thinking. We're 120 to 130 students, 9 through 12. We're going to shrink to about 97 within the next 3 years. Just looking at the demographics coming through the pipeline. And that is a very small high school, and no one would create a high school that size if they were in the right mind. I'm concerned that it does not allow our students to have the opportunities that they really need. And it's not consolidating for purposes of thrift, it's consolidating for purposes of student education. Which is our paramount concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Carrie Brennan. I'm the head of school of Thetford Academy, and really happy to be here today and just see you all in action. as everyone has said in their letters and in public comments at this and other meetings, this is really hard work. So thank you for your service. I'm just wanting to share a couple things. I didn't prepare public comments today. I know my board chair read a letter a couple meetings ago, and I just wanted to say one thing. I really appreciate that you're in the Upper Valley today. It's maybe a small state, but there are lots of nuances in this state, and our community in the Upper Valley, I think, is very different and has some unique complexity and characteristics. So, and you've heard that, I think, today from the public comments in the room that have gone before me. So thank you for being in the Upper Valley, specifically A and B. Now it just flew out of my head, but yeah, I want to say I wanted to invite you to Thetford Academy to visit our school and really feel the public mission that we have as a town academy, meet our students, meet our amazing certified faculty, and see what we do, learn about our student support services and our IEP program, and how we meet students' needs. I think we can get easily in camps when we're living in kind of different worlds and things are more abstract. So I'm really just here in public comments to introduce myself, put a face with the name, with the school, and invite you to visit Thetford Academy and learn about our mission and our program and our history and our legacy, as Mary Chin referred to firsthand. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Everyone did a nice job of staying under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't see any hands online. So, if there's, oh, okay, bonjour, monsieur. Oui, come on up. Come on up.
Inspired me to speak up.
Oh, love it.
Good.
I got a bad ankle, excuse the limp. It's getting better.
Getting much better.
Representative Jim Maslin, Ways and Means, live in Thetford. I can say I've lived in the Upper Valley all my life, except when I've lived somewhere else. But I've been here and I've seen the changes, and I'm really impressed with some of the comments today that I didn't expect to hear, to the extent that your work or what we do back in the legislature when we get there may have to do with, in large part, with the statutes and whether they serve the purpose of this group or whether all of us, and whether or not we'll have to eventually down the line change things to make things fit. And I'm not sure at all where we'll end up on that. And I think we will collectively have to pick the issues that will be most productive that we can get something done on and see if we can work forward with those. And we look for your guidance very much on pick this, you guys. This is the crux of this issue or that issue. And so I don't have too much more to say, except I recognize that there will be some challenges and they will be ongoing for a while. I was describing what you guys were doing and how this act is playing out as a work in progress with someone who was dismayed with that comment. That, no, you guys are gonna make a recommendation and by June we'll have a lot of things all wrapped up. I'm fake as God, and I think probably not.
I want to
So,
take a picture of that. Can I take a picture?
Almost out in 2 minutes, but respect that
Just take a screen grab.
some of the changes that will be necessary to affect a comprehensive solution are gonna beyond what you can recommend
Right.
and beyond what the legislature can do in a year. And we'll have to just be aware of that and grapple with that fact and go forward with it and try, as they do, the best you can with what you have where you got. And we'll have to pick things where we can be most effective and work on those, knowing full well that there will be others. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Nicely done.
Close enough.
Anybody else?
Anybody else? People keep getting a little more courageous as the day wears on. Okay, if there is no more public comment, then I think we could offer up a motion to adjourn.
Do we have to have a reflection?
Oh, sorry, yes, reflections.
and next
I
steps.
apologize. apologize, yes. Any reflections, other than the timing on each individual public comment was fantastic? Yeah.
I just thought this was a wonderful example of how getting into a different region, we hear a very different flavor. And so I want to thank the chairs for making it possible to come over here, because obviously I'm a little biased because I'm from this region, but I think it was really important for us to hear the comment we heard today.
Thank you.
I think it was really helpful to hear from another legislator that an openness to consider what we can offer that could improve the current choices, or what is the barrier to what we're doing. So it's satisfying to hear that, yes, we should articulate those things in our report. They will hopefully inform work.
Anyone else for a reflection? Okay, then the next steps is that we're gonna stay put and have our public hearing in a short while. Sorry?
In an hour.
In an hour.
In 1 hour
An hour and
exactly.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
In 1 hour and 15 minutes exactly, and I will take a motion to adjourn in the meantime.
So moved.
So
Thank you,
moved.
thank you, all in favor, aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
And then, there's a faculty break room over there, and there's filtered water through a refrigerator if you're looking for water.
Thank you.
We might need some hands moving things around, so.
Yeah.